Hello, this is Heather Scott, and in this video I will be doing a book review on the book The Game Believes in You, How Digital Play Makes Our Kids Smarter, written by Greg Topo in 2015. I'm going to start the review with a quote from the book by the Stanford math researcher Delvin. It says, "It's not the student's responsibility to put themselves in our place. As teachers, it's our responsibility to put ourselves in the student's place. And if they're in the digital world, where they will invest many hours solving difficult, challenging problems in a video game, it would be criminal if we didn't start where they are and take advantage of the things they want to do." In the book The Game Believes in You, Greg explores digital gaming, more popularly known as video games. He investigates their effects on children's education and their ability to be a successful member of community. Greg has worked as a teacher in both public and private schools for 8 years, but more recently has worked as a reporter and journalist since 2000, publishing works for USA Today and the Associated Press. When designed properly, video games can become a valuable resource for children to learn at their own pace with low risk and high reward. With video games in play, teachers are provided with the time and opportunity to focus on bigger picture concepts. Throughout this book, Greg interviews and investigates experts in the field, often testing and experiencing the digital play himself. He offers what appears to be a very non-biased and professional review of the technology our students are currently using and what may be available to them in the future. Before we start exploring this topic, we need to acknowledge how today's kids are different than the previous generations. They're paying attention to everything. Books, music, movies, TV, fashion, basically everything but school. It's experimental learning at its best. However, kids are also dealing with anxieties that previous generations didn't have to. They're exposed to horrible injustices all over the world through the news and other medias. Let's face it, that's pretty terrifying. But why do we like games so much? The brain is wired for pleasure. We're paid to be curious. When we learn something or make an association between what we see and what's already in our memory, our brain squirts a little shot of endorphins into our bloodstream. This acts as a neurotransmitter, but also as a kind of mild painkiller. The more richly interpretable the scene, the more endorphins produced, since the brain is casting about for ways to understand what it's seeing and fit the new mystery into its experience. That's what makes a game the voluntary attempt to overcome unnecessary obstacles. Our brain is such a hopeless pattern seeker that given the tiniest opportunity, it will even invent a game on the spot and hold the rest of the body hostage until it's done. Many organizations are turning to gamification, a carefully designed overlay of game mechanics added to everyday tasks to make them more compelling, more thrilling, and more consequential. A mindful escape from the so many poorly structured experiences. But how do video games make us smarter? Well, strategically designed games have proven to be an effective method for teaching any subject a game designer chooses. Improved visual clarity, attention control, emotion regulation, decision-making, multitasking, and even attention regulation can all be enhanced by playing video games. They give children access to new worlds that they otherwise would never know about. And adversity does not hinder learning when using video games. In fact, most big gamers live in adverse situations. Video games use scaffold learning and have never-ending patience. A player can repeat a level countless times until they've mastered the skills necessary to move forward. Games also make players think like scientists, hypothesizing, testing, going back to rehypothesize, and investigating again. They also have a built-in assessment system and can receive feedback almost immediately. Good games require skill, imagination, and a commitment to learning. They let you know that your actions matter and you can feel their effects. You are rewarded for the effort you make at the moment of accomplishment. They also create immersion by offering richly detailed and cognitively demanding environments, full of threats, pathways, and items that players can snag up. Video games help to create a state of flow, a mental state in which a person's abilities match the task at hand so perfectly that the work becomes invisible. Faced with skills that don't require a challenge create boredom, while challenges that don't require skills could create anxiety. However, a state of flow sits right between that boredom and anxiety. Video games also turn children into self-reliant learners. It encourages positive social construct and provide players with avatars, allowing teenagers to explore different identity roles and personalities without fear of consequences. A student in the book quoted that they are not good at math, but their avatar is. Video games can have some therapeutic effects. They are a platform for inclusion. English language learners and disabilities combined are hard to identify when you're looking at a group of students playing video games. Game designers also have a quiet but intense foot race to become the first to earn the FDA approval for a medically sound prescription strength EEG video game. This could treat ADHD, cognitive abilities, depression, schizophrenia, anxiety, autism. By maximizing the brain plasticity beyond the younger years, people could be treated up to age 70. Unfortunately, it could take over 10 years to get approved by the FDA. However, when approved, this could be more effective than drugs or expensive therapy, because patients will happily take their full dose consistently. Does this mean that all video games are good? No. Some can be bad, such as slot machines and gambling types where people play in solidarity for endless hours and don't require much thinking. So do drill and practice software such as flashcards. When you're looking at bad games versus good games, it's kind of like comparing an apple-flavored lollipop to an actual apple. While the lollipop is very sweet and appealing, it's not good for you. Where an actual apple may have the same title apple, but is actually very healthy for your development. Video games with adult ratings carry them for a reason. So yes, these could be bad for children who are younger than the rating on the box. Although video games don't cause violence, they can normalize some humiliation, degradation, and senseless violence. They can, like all medias, keep children and parents from interacting and provide a medium for bullying. However, they do not cause bullying. That is an issue that the parent needs to investigate apart from the video games. So what makes an effective educational game? Well, when the stakes are too high, the game becomes a crushing competition for fun for spectators, but a chore for most students, such as a spelling bee. So these are not effective when the stakes are too high. However, when the stakes are too low, well, actually the stakes can't get too low, and perhaps that's the point. With low risk comes persistence. An effective game includes collaboration, teamwork, humanities, and social skills. It incorporates some real-world skills and is individualized to the student's skill level and provides a private environment for just the student and the teacher, unlike an open classroom. Effective games immerse the student in the material, teaching and reteaching key concepts in a simple but enjoyable way. They provide an interactive experience that doesn't give you the answers but enforces the rules. The game is simple yet flexible, so teachers can actually adapt them to whatever lesson they're teaching. With all this talk of digital play, you may be thinking, well, what's wrong with the school system the way it is now? Well, the model's broken. It's over 100 years old and still industrialized like a factory. Students are led to seek maximum rewards, but only willing to put in minimal effort. There's this line 'em up, feed 'em facts, open their heads, pour it in, close their heads, and then have them regurgitate it system. We're not teaching kids to work in factories anymore. We're trying to produce thinkers. School's not individualized enough. There's not enough feedback. It demands that students perform on exams before they're even mastered the material. Students rarely use academic competition for more than just the top elite, when research shows that it's not the top elite who would benefit from it most. Half of the high school dropouts said that they did so because they were not inspired to work hard or craved real-world learning. Adversity hinders the student's ability to learn in school. Most schools use one of two most ineffective methods, bribes or threats, to keep their students motivated. School is basically a game itself. It has due dates such as countdown clocks, final exams as boss levels, grades for final scores, and honor roll as the leaderboard. However, the game is not good because it lacks surprises, projection, pleasure, and a sense of community, and it has a bad interest curve. Real learning, games showed, was always associated with pleasure and is ultimately a form of play, an idea almost always dismissed by schools. I'm sure we've all heard of the phrase, "School is not meant to be fun." So what does digital education look like? Some theorize that this would mean textbooks would live on a tablet, giving teachers access to data about how well students are doing every minute, what lessons and material they're accessing, how much time they spend on the material, and even how far they've read in a given assignment. Digital education fosters a sense of social justice. It can help erase the nagging achievement gap between the rich and poor children by offering the equivalent of a one-to-one tutoring in nearly every subject. Rich kids get to have that level of education every day, they say. If we want true equality, shouldn't everyone have that level of education? In conclusion, we're trying to produce happy, creative individuals who are going to lead successful lives, be contributing members of society. To be a success in life is to be happy, and you're only going to be happy if you're involved in doing something you love. But we are not giving kids that foothold. For all the jaw-dropping improvements, computers have had little impact on educational achievement overall. People are not machines. If we want people to be productive and happy, we've got to find ways to help them own and enjoy doing what needs to be done. Video games don't reward casual effort, mindless repetition, or rat-in-a-cage responses. Instead, they reward practice, persistence, and risk-taking. They give the brain a way to filter out distraction and give the task at hand. Most of all, they implicitly reward those who learn to enjoy the tasks they offer. They forge experience. Life is not about working or playing, but finding that sweet spot between the two. Thank you for watching my video. I encourage anyone who's interested in this topic to go and pick up one of Greg's copies of The Game Believes in You, and to view my other YouTube video about violent video games and their effects on children. Thank you for listening. Bye.